Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is part two. Paul Cale Sensei does talk a lot, and it's a good thing. They say, silence is the tomb of wisdom. And often I've had lots of teachers who didn't talk much, and it was to the detriment of the art. You had to glean everything. So here you have a gentleman who's walked the talk and talked the walk, and listen. So now, years ago, Paul Cale Sensei, I'll remind him of this. My memory is really good. I remember everything, whether it happened or not. I'm gonna refresh his memory. Years ago, someone asked him a question, and his analogy was, if you give a sniper an Uzi, it's no good to him. If you give a street kid a sniper's rifle, it's no good. And I'll let you continue with that one, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so, a sniper with a sniper rifle and all the tactics and skills that go around that will use that weapon at its best, deploy the weapon and give it its best use. And an assaulter will want to close with the enemy, and they'll use close quarter tactics and so forth and so on. So again, it's the tools that suit your temperament and what you're about. So once you understand what you're about, you've got to find the tools that suit your temperament and what you want to achieve. Some people don't even want to achieve self-defense. It's not an interest. Their interest is studying something from, like a historical study of something. Well, that's, then you choose exactly what it is that you want to do in your martial art that relates to that. And, you might surprise yourself as you go along and realize that there's a lot of overlap and so on anyway. So, yeah, that's probably the thinking, yeah.
Paul Cale Sensei's memory is not as good as mine. He was very eloquent. Maybe he had a few more to drink than tonight.
I might have had a few more, yeah.
But he said it's about the right person finding the right weapon, and he finished it off with one very important point. Then having the fortitude to use that weapon. So people come to me and they want to study martial arts, and you can show them the best technique, but they do not have the balls or the fortitude to use it. So what's the point? What's the point? And that's a really, really important part about martial art. And maybe, it's about that spirit and mind, body, spirit.
I would have been, now that you've said that, I would have been heavily involved in studying capacity of violence, if I had said that. So it's interesting because even when you ask a question, it comes down to what I'm really involved with in learning about. And at that stage, I was really into understanding the human's capacity of violence and how that differs in people. So exactly, it's like teaching women self-defense, and you see people, oh, you need to eye gouge, and then and I've seen women, oh, I couldn't do that. Like they'd literally rather be bashed or killed than sit there and try and eye gouge someone. So, you're wasting your time by trying to have a sheep act like a wolf. So you've got to, again, deploy the weapons that suit your temperament and deploy the art. And, it's an interesting thing when you say Aiki, harmony. The most important thing in Aiki is to be in harmony with yourself. You need to understand who you are. And then that will determine what you're capable of doing. Because Aikido, if you look at Aikido, it requires a huge amount of courage. If you're going to face a weapon, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to die. You will fail. So just even standing there and contemplating that and then doing that is a very, that will require immense courage. So it's the opposite to say anything less of really what Aikido's showing you through its training. The other interesting thing with Aikido is people talk about a non-confrontational element. Now, I agree with that, but also it's something that allows you to survive against a weapon. If I have this sense of I do not want to be in confrontation, and even if I feint weakness and I avoid, that enemy gets overconfident. And that enemy maybe makes an attack that's an overconfident attack that allows me actually to achieve victory. Like, I think there's so much in the thinking that if you place a martial strategy over the top of it, lay over the top, you can think your way through some of these concepts. And maybe they're more original concepts, and then, you know, oh, that sounds good. That sounds like peace and mung beans, and that works well for the new Japan, where we have to be seen as non-aggressive and not promoting military behaviors of the past. So I would suggest that mostly the way we think today in martial arts, a lot of it's got to do with the changes that were forced upon those martial arts in post-World War II Japan, rather than the centuries of knowledge that came beforehand.
Because Paul Cale Sensei and I are in such harmony and such sync, what he meant to say when he said teaching women self-defense and women not being able to do that and the other, he didn't mean just women. He meant people in general. It's just that that's our experience when we've taught people. It's women who are more willing to voice those reservations. Men aren't willing to voice them. Doesn't mean they don't have them. Just thought I'd throw it out there because we all know that when the wise man points at the moon, the fool looks at the finger. All right? So,
women will kill people just as well as men. No problem at all. But what I'm saying is, you know, people try to, I guess, the reason I mention women's self-defense is that I'll sell it to women and you can just be together and feel comfortable. Well, great. You're all comfortable in this situation because you're not comfortable with dealing with a man, but the actual situation probably most likely is going to be against a man. So I guess if you hear me mention something, it's not rubbishing the sex or anything else. I'm not sexist. I'm not racist. I hate more political beliefs, certain political orientations, and I have no issue with that. Or I hate sexism that's or disguised in political correctness.
Can we get personal later? Can we get emotional first? Like you said, most of the people listening to this are Aikido based. So I've got a question from Rodney McLeod. He wanted to meet.
Oh, Rodney. Hello, Rodney.
Yeah. Everyone likes Rodney. He wanted me to throw this to you or Darren Sensei. He sent a link to an article, but essentially he says, the article suggests that traditional martial arts overemphasize form and that it becomes disconnected from its original function, where sports combat are forced to constantly be tested, re-evaluated, and updated. How do you think this applies to Aikido, and do you think Aikido needs to change?
Okay. I'll answer the second question first. Aikido does need to change. It needs to change back into what it originally was. So, and when I say Aikido, I'm talking about Ueshiba Sensei's teaching of it. So I'm not talking about Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, but Aiki Budo, if you like. You know, pre-World War II Aikido. So I think that the changes that were made to Aikido were not a good thing for it. And I can understand why it would have happened with the shock of losing World War II. You've got to remember, this is the first war that the Japanese people have ever lost. First war. First time their country's ever been successfully invaded and occupied by a foreign force. You've got to understand the psyche of that for a warrior nation and the effect of that. And also, Ueshiba Sensei was heavy into his religion. So you've got this religious overtone along with post-World War II Japan. There is modern Aikido. Right. Now, the human body is predominantly water. Yeah. Now, it's formless. Water takes the shape of the vessel that it's in. If you think of the human body as this liquid, it needs to be shaped into a weapon system. So one of the best ways to do that is to put a weapon in your hand. And you will change. And that's why Aikido people that study weapons, that have exposure to weapon training, get a different sense. You know, you see the instructors from Aikikai, from Yoshinkan, from doesn't matter style, when they expose themselves to weapons, you have to, the weapon won't bend, won't move. So you shape to the weapon to best use the weapon. Now, when you look at karateka, when you talk about form, let's say karateka, they're all about empty hand. So the form allows them to create shape and structure to the human body to teach them movement, and that replaces the weapon. So it doesn't matter how you do it. It's the same as soldiers. When we're teaching them how to use a firearm, they take on a shape. And when you take that firearm out of their hands and you tell them to close like you're closing with a firearm and so forth, they will take on the same postures, same technique. So form is extremely important. And for anyone to say that combat sportsmen don't know form and aren't taught form before they become champion mixed martial art fighters doesn't know what they're talking about. Now, they may not learn karate, they may not learn aikido, they may not learn a traditional style, but the forms that they're learning to punch properly, to kick properly, to grapple, there's structure and form to all of that. Doesn't matter. You cannot avoid it. And all they're talking about is a sport that allows you to kick, punch, and throw. You can't have two against one. You can't have a weapon thrown into the cage for you. So to sit there and say it's the ultimate it's not. It's just a very good experience for a combat sport. So that's it.
Okay, so let me pick you up on something. So you said, I mean, I have no trouble with anything you said, but on a previous question, you said that if you don't want to practice Aikido to ever use it, martial arts to ever use it in a real situation, that's fine. If you want to do it for some historical value or some esoteric value, I'm reading into your question, that's fine. But now you say that, no, you must study the form and you must. How do you reconcile the two?
No. So what I'm saying is if you want to be able to fight, you'll have to study form. You have to have, like Yoshinkan, the reason Yoshinkan does well in the early stages of Aikido is because of form. It teaches people form and structure. And when you look at a Yoshinkan Aikidoka compared to others, that form comes out and it's very, very good. I just think the Yoshinkan should dump it faster. Good, you've got your form, now learn how to free play and let that form just fit in, rather than teach you, hundreds of ways of applying form. So that's the same sort of thing. That makes sense. If you might have that form to kick off, then you need to learn the free play and answers that come naturally to problems. So and all I'm saying that if you want to study the historical martial arts, if you have no interest about self-defense, then you just have to do what the martial arts showing you. You don't have to think about self-defense or fighting. But that's where I said it might surprise you because you're actually probably learning stuff about fighting that, down the track you'll realize.
Okay. So I'm going to have to ask you for shorter answers because there's something at the end that I want to hit, right?
Okay. I can do really short answers. I can be like a Spartan and almost just yes, no.
No, not that.
Okay.
Short. This is from one of the most unpopular people on the face of the earth. His name is Rob Rosa.
I've heard much about him through your Facebook. Yeah.
With the popularity of MMA and other forms of hybrid martial arts becoming popular, is there something that Aikido can do to compete with these pop-ups? And while I understand that Aikido is a traditional form, I'm asking what you think the future of Aikido is.
Well, I agree with you with the word when you said one of the most important things in martial arts is reiho. So I would say there's two things, heiho and reiho. So strategy and etiquette. So strategy helps you deal with a dangerous person. Etiquette stops you becoming the dangerous person. Etiquette stops you being the idiot that everyone's learning martial arts to protect themselves from, right? So that is what traditional martial arts brings. That's what Budo brings. Budo is a form of stoicism that is wrapped in a practical application, a way of practicing it. But it teaches you a lot of elements. And Did I answer it?
That's not important.
Did I answer it? Did that answer it?
If you
Yeah.
did, I'll hear from it. Yeah.
So Aikido, look, Aikido can do a lot. It's just, you know what Aikido's got to do? It's got to stop trying to be everything else and start being what it is. There's a lot to Aikido.
Let me ask you a question, right? And in a roundabout way, you're going to answer the question you just asked or you just alluded to. Me and a lot of traditionalists like me always quote our teachers when we speak. We always quote our teachers. Our teacher said this, my teacher said that. David Dangerfield quoted Nishioka Sensei a lot. And we all quote teachers, me too. Right? You haven't quoted even one teacher. You've said, this is what I believe, this is what it is, this is how it is. I'm not saying good or bad, but why? What's the difference between how you think and how we think? Got you
well, I've read a lot of teachers. Like I do a lot of reading, as you know, and I do a lot of deep thinking. But what I do is I listen to what's been said, and I will think on it, and then I'll add my own understanding and experience to it. So it won't be exactly the same as what a teacher has said, but it'll be as it relates to my experience. So a lot of what I've got to say isn't me. It's those who have come before me, but it definitely is related to my experience. So
here maybe lies the answer, because maybe the so-called traditionalists like me, we're still stuck in what our teachers think, whereas you have evolved and you're using what was given to you. We're just maybe preserving the picture. We're just painting it the same way, preserving it. We're stuck in boxes. Whereas you have...
Yeah. But it's like I keep coming back to you, and we talk about this often at the dojo, that where you're sitting right now, like that traditional element, the Budo spirit, it's so important. And I guess I see things like, I would walk up and I would say, look, what you're doing is a crock. Actually, I probably wouldn't. I just wouldn't tell you anything out of respect. But I thought all martial arts were bullshit. Like, if you want to talk about martial arts, who's who in the zoo and which one's better, for 1 year after I did my first hand-to-hand combat in Afghanistan, where I fought hand-to-hand and so forth, I hated all martial arts. I literally went, they're all bullshit. I'm going to shoot people. I'm going to stab people. I'm never going to be caught in that position again. It failed me. It did not do what I wanted. Now, it was being asked to teach martial arts again that brought me out of that slump. It was someone said, hey, can you, teach? And I really enjoyed it. And they said, that was fantastic. Can you come back again? And I realized that was doing something else for me. It was helping me deal with the effects of combat, which a lot of people talk about with martial arts. It's the calming and the reconnecting to yourself after what's happened, the event. When I listen to the way martial artists talk, they're always in preparation for the coming battle. And I guess the difference with me is I've been in battle, so I talk more about after the battle and about how good the martial art is for the mind, in calming the mind. That is now, if you look into the abyss long enough, the abyss looks back into you, a classic Stoic saying. And when you've been affected by combat, Budo is also something that brings you calm and brings you out of it. So I guess it's just, you need someone in Aikido to say, you're on the right, if you're talking about fighting, you're on the right path for these following reasons. And when I see Aikido guys showing you what to do against a jab cross and how to make Aikido. I just cringe, because Aikido is about fighting at distance against weapons. That's what it's about. You only have to look at the techniques to understand that. So stop trying to make Aikido fit dealing with a boxer. I mean, if you're that close, you should have already done your Rumi ski. You should have already been through their face with your Rumi technique. Or keep your distance and allow that person to chase you down. You know, if you look at Juwaza, the reason Uke runs at you is because you're always maintaining distance. And I have shown this in military training. And the beauty of training soldiers is I've got a bunch of guinea pigs and they won't know anything about Aikido or anything like that. And I'll just keep distance and you'll just get this guy frustrated and they charge at you and you just coat hanger on. Oh, shit. That must be Aikido. It's a strategy that allows you to fight the way you fight. And if you're not following the strategy, you're not going to be able to do Aikido. So you need the strategy that overlays on the technique of Aikido. And if you don't, if your whole idea is get close, then you should learn Judo because you're going to need Judo. So it's just, it comes down to what's your strategy and stop using close quarter strategy for a medium distance martial art or a long distance martial art.
Okay, everyone who does Aikido, replay those last 4 minutes and there you go. That's worth the price of admission right there. Now, look, I met Paul Cale Sensei in 1990, 91, something like that. And, you know, we got to know each other and we've got along really well. Every time he's been away on tour or, you know, serving the country in places I don't want to mention, he's always come back and seen me and we've had chats. And, you know, he's talked to me when he's been in a good place. He's talked to me when he's been in a bad place and vice versa. I've sought out his counsel when I've been in not such a good place. And we've talked when we've been in, you know, up and down. We've shared our experiences, life experiences. Now, you know, for a man who's, I hope you don't mind me saying this, who's suffered from PTSD and who's, you know, had it really hard. And I know from what he's told me, he's had it really hard. And a lot of people right now, a lot of people, and this for me is really close to home at the moment, are facing really bad times with your business, your family, you're stuck. You don't know what's going to happen after this COVID-19 blows over. I don't know if my dojo is going to survive. How do you deal with that kind of scenario, Paul Sensei?
Well, it's like the battlefield. The enemy always has a say. So, you know, everything's going along well. It's following your plan. The enemy will never follow your plan. And if you want to think of COVID-19 as the enemy having an effect on you, they've had a huge effect. They've smashed you. They've knocked out one of your platoons, and you've taken some serious hits. And you need to, you know, you just got to stay the path. And this, what I would say is, look, everyone says, oh, you know, head up and horse. This is where you truly get to understand the term us. And this is what, you know, you're speaking about. It's pointless to say us every time you're in the dojo. And I'll say us all the time because I'll live it. And if you live it, you can say it. But you say it with conviction. You don't have to be reminded to say it. It's like I watch us, and then you throw someone around for a while, or you do kumite or whatever, and they suffer and you don't hear us. That's when you should be hearing us. Take this hard time as being the condition of being a human. This is what a human is. We try so hard not to suffer what it is to be alive and be human, that we almost believe that we are immortal. We almost believe that our plans will come, you know, will play out. They won't. And the true sign of strength is when it's not going your way, and yet you come through it stronger. And that is the secret of Budo. And I think if you can now look at this, and instead of avoiding it, actually look at it and stare it in the face and go, well, what is this now? And how will the world look after this? How will I look after this? And it's how you come out. And it's a little bit very Japanese, you know, this sense of not losing face. Do not stop being the person that you want to be. You can't control what happens to you. You can only control your reactions to what happens to you. And so you control your reaction to the current situation. And it can be terrible, but the thing is, treat it as a test. And when you talk about, you know, you think differently because of experience, well, here's your chance to have a terrible experience. Here's everyone's chance to actually realize what it feels like to not be in control. And the battlefield can feel like that, where you go, I don't know, we're going to live today. And once on the battlefield, normally, you know, I mean, you can have some horrendous battles, but only once on the battlefield, and it wasn't the time I fought hand to hand. Once on the battlefield, when we took wounded, you know, 3 wounded within minutes of landing, and every team was in contact. I think 5 or 6 gallantry awards were won by 14 soldiers in you know, one battle. That was the time where I thought we may not survive. And it's what you go, well, regardless, I'm going to be an Australian commando today. Whether I survive or not, whether our team is wiped out, we are going to let the enemy know who we are. And that's what you do. Now, you might say, well, we're all Australians. Australia's too big a thing to say we're all Australians. But you can say, I'm a Budoka. I'm a Budoka, and dealing with adversity is what we are all about. The reason we wear a white gi is white in Japanese culture is death. I've got this white gi over with, you know, my clothing over the top, entering in battle, is willing to face death. We have to remember where what we do comes from and practice it. Things are bad, and things could get even worse. I actually think your virus is your least of your worries. It's going to be the worldwide, you know, depression or deep recession. That's going to be the thing that hurts people. You know what? Okay. You just face it. You stand there like a man or a woman who has done Budo, and you look at it in the face and you stare it down and you say, whatever comes at me, I will face it. And that's how I think about it. Was that a little bit over the top?
No. We could go on for hours, but I think that's about our time's up. As usual for my show, you get to say the last word, and then I'll sign off.
Okay. Well, I've noticed you've asked people what to do during their time down. I would say think. Start looking and rereading and rediscovering your Budo. Get on to YouTube. It's an incredible time now. You can get onto YouTube and you can listen to 6, 7, 9 and 10th dans, 8th dans talking and doing seminars. And I'll listen for hours to seminars just to hear one thing that I haven't heard before. Just to go, that changes everything. So think, stop trying to find answers, and start having a decent question in your mind, and the answers will come.
Okay, everyone, you know, look, whenever Paul Cale Sensei talks, I listen. And I could go on for hours. I could listen to this man for hours. It'll drive me to drink, but I could listen to him for hours. He's not just a good friend, but a phenomenal martial artist and a great, great human being. I said to him once when I first met him, I said, you like coming across as a knuckle dragger, don't you? And he says, well, it serves the purpose. And he's the kind of person who will do what needs to be done to get the job done. And for me, that's what martial arts has taught me. That's what also has taught me, to get the job done and to do it to the best of your ability. And for me, this man epitomizes it. I know I said he'd have the last word. Hey, my show, guys. If you've got, in interest of transparency, this show was pre-recorded. All the previous ones were live, and so on. They'll be live, but on Saturday it's Anzac Day, and in Australia it's like Remembrance Day. It's a very special day, and veterans like Paul Cale Sensei will not be in a position to speak by this time of the day. So I'm glad he came and spoke to us beforehand. This is in 2 parts. Please watch 2 parts. If you like it, share it. Hashtag keep the flame alive. And I don't give a stuff what martial art it is. The flame is Budo. Os.
Os.